Well, you know, after practicing law for 34 years and representing injured people for that long, you remember certain cases that come back to you. I remember one medical malpractice case in particular where a young man with a very young wife had gone to a hospital repeatedly, 2 separate times, with the growth underneath of his arm. And first time they said it was cat scratch fever, and when a year he comes back and they told him again it's still cat scratch fever, and they were doing biopsies and they were looking at these slides. Of course, they never did get a second opinion on these slides. They said they were going to but didn't, and it turned out that the man had Hodgkin's lymphoma, and because they waited so long, he went from a very curable form of cancer, I think it was like 80 or 90% cure rate, down to about a 10 or 15% chance, and he eventually died during one of his treatments. The thing that was important about the case was we got to this point where there were some of the slides that were very telling, very diagnostic for Hodgkin's. There were others that were not as diagnostic. And we got to this point where we couldn't really tell from the records which slides the doctors had reviewed. And it made a difference in terms of the experts and what their opinions were. And finally, I heard about this one person who had initials on certain ones of these, and nobody could find her. She didn't work at the hospital anymore. And I remember camping out. I found a trailer where she lived over in Monongah, and I camped out there every night for almost a week, for a couple hours every night, waiting for her to come be there at some point. And finally one night I caught her, and sure enough, I went in and interviewed her, and she was able to straighten out exactly which slides had been seen by the doctors and which hadn't been seen by the doctors. And it turned out that we were able to get their own expert to even testify that basically they should have been able to diagnose it. And with that, we were able to achieve a very nice settlement for the widow, and she's remained a lifelong friend of ours, and still see her periodically, still hear from her.